What's going on, everybody? It's your man Louie T here with a brand new installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I appreciate y'all kicking it with the kid. Late night Louie edition. Um, I don't want to call this one spontaneous or off the cuff because I had planned on doing this one. Maybe not this late, but planned on getting this one out. Got a number of topics that I would like to knock down this evening. March Madness wasn't all that mad this past weekend as we were down to the Sweet 16. We'll talk about the weekend that was. I was actually all in on the women's side of the tournament this year as well. What the hell is going on? Maybe Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and Paige Buckers and all those girls from last year, even though Paige and Juju are still in college right now. Maybe they did have an impact on me. Damn. Chitlin Circuit. Didn't even realize it. I'll talk about that a little bit later on. The NFL QB dominoes, those free agent dominoes that we were waiting to fall, didn't know that Jameis Winston would be the key to all of this taking place. But now we know where everyone's going to go. We'll talk about that. And did Cam Ward lock up the #1 overall pick with his pro day performance today? We will discuss that and more here on the Louie T Network podcast that starts now. The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description. Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the 491st installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Hopefully, wherever you are, this is reaching you at a good time and space. And if you're watching this live, I really do appreciate you kicking it with the kid. Wherever you may be, whenever it may be. So, hope your weekend was glorious. And for some of you, hope your weekend is not over. You're continuing to enjoy the weekend as it extends into Monday and possibly Tuesday. March Madness kicked off last Thursday on the men's side. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Women's kicked off Friday and extended throughout the weekend and into Monday. Hopefully Juju Watkins is okay. Before I came on, she had suffered a knee injury, had to be carried off the court. Did not look good. Hopefully it was more precautionary than anything else. But anytime somebody goes down clutching their knee, then has to be carried off the court, it doesn't feel nor look good. So hopefully she is okay. One of the stars of women's college basketball. We'll talk about the tournament here in a second, but I'm going to start off with some NFL news and more so the draft. Haven't really talked a ton about the draft. We are literally a month away from the NFL draft. So it's vastly approaching. And I really haven't touched on the draft at all. So I've talked about how quick of a process it's going to be for me. And that's going to start this week. I'm done with the running back. So I'm going to be putting those videos out this week. And I've already started on the edge rushers, going to fly through them. And then we're going to just keep knocking out positions one by one until we either run out of time or we knock everything out. So quarterback is something that I don't really feel like I need to be, overly concerned with this year, because I think we kind of have a good feel for what is going to transpire. how it's going to look. We've seen quarterback classes like these before. So I think we got a sense of how things are going to go down. Now, um, there was a brief debate as to whether or not a quarterback would even go number one overall in this draft. I thought that was an asinine discussion from the jump because in this league, and it's not like this is the 2022 draft class of quarterbacks where Kenny Pickett was your lone first round pick, probably shouldn't have even been a first round pick, but he was your lone first round pick. And there was really nothing there to speak of in that year's draft class. The quarterback position, this isn't that. Like there's talent between Shador Sanders and Cam Ward, and to a lesser degree, um, the Ole Miss quarterback. Like there's talent in this draft class. You know who I'm actually like, there's always one quarterback that you're like, I'm intrigued by that guy. Tyler Show out of Louisville is very intriguing to me. He's the Spencer Rattler of this year's draft class, right? Every year, like Sam Howell was that guy in 2022, and every year there's one guy that you look at and you say, "Hey, if he goes to the right place, he stays healthy, everything kind of falls in line for him. This guy's talented. Who knows what could happen?" He feels like that guy in this particular draft class. Got all the measurables, got the arm talent, got some athleticism. He's old as shit. I think he's like 26 or 27. That's no here nor there, though. The talent is all I care about. And I think he's got some. Is it enough for him to end up sticking around on an NFL roster? Don't know. But the talent is most certainly there. But that's where we're going to start today's show, right? We're going to start today's show talking quarterback position in the 2025 NFL draft, specifically the top of the draft and Cam Ward. So let's go there and get into our gem dropping session. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T-double-E. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. So Cam Ward had his pro day today. And by all accounts, it was extremely successful. And being that my team doesn't need a quarterback, I'm not as invested in watching these pro days and picking them apart. Because as I've told you in the past many a times, pro days are like the combine, right? The great Michael Mayock used to say, fast guys run fast, slow guys run slow. It's only a story when the opposite happens, right? That's how I feel about pro days. Pro days are scripted. If you're a good quarterback, you'll go out, you're throwing against air, you're throwing to your receivers. This is what you wanted. This is why you elected not to throw at the combine, so that you could be in the comfy confines of your facility with your receivers running your script. And so you should ace this test. It's essentially a test that you're being given, that you've been given all the questions to beforehand, so you could go home and literally study, get all the answers. And then they said to you, hey, don't worry, it's open book as well. So literally you could go home, fill out all of the answers, bring them with you, and then all you had to do was put the answers down on the test. That's what a pro day amounts to for me. So if you fail the pro day, we have an issue. Generally, quarterbacks don't. If you're good, you're going to go out and you're going to smoke the pro day, because this is what you've been training and practicing to do. And that's what he did. So at the end of the day, all he was really looking to do, to me, in my mind's eye, was solidify himself as the number one overall pick. I think we felt that way going into the process. I think most people did, not everyone. I think there was still some rumblings of Shador maybe being the number one pick. Then there was this brief period where people convinced themselves somehow that the, Titans were going to take a non-quarterback at one. I'm like, either they're trading the pick or they're taking a quarterback. There's no way the Titans are going to stay at one and disregard the most important position in all of sports, well, all of football, and at a time where they don't have one. This isn't Jacksonville having the number one pick, the year after drafting Trevor Lawrence and not needing a quarterback. All right, this isn't that. They need a quarterback, do the Tennessee Titans. Now, the question is, do they love either one of these guys? Don't know if that's the case or not. But to me, it's worth a shot. And I'm not a part of the crowd that suggests, because Daniel Jeremiah was kind of selling this point to, fans of the teams that were up towards the top of the draft, or just NFL fans in general. Like, hey, you don't have to, quote unquote, necessarily reach for a quarterback, which I don't think you're reaching for a quarterback if you're drafting Shador Sanders or Cam Ward. Now, if you don't love them, then you may consider it a reach, but these guys are talented. It's not like you're drafting Kenny Pickett here. It's not like you're drafting Malik Willis or something like that in the first round. It's not like when the Giants spent a top 7 pick on Daniel Jones. I think he went 6th overall, if I'm not mistaken. Like, it's not like you're doing that. It's not like you're the then Redskins drafting Dwayne Haskins at 15th overall, which was a mistake, and everybody knew it at the time of the selection, right? It's not like you're doing that. You're drafting guys that have pedigree, that are really talented, that I think no one's going to bat an eye if you spend the number 1, 2, or 3 pick on either one of these two quarterbacks. That said, if you're the Titans, you'd be foolish to pass up an opportunity to take a swing. To me, until you have a quarterback, you should be taking as many cuts and as many swings at the quarterback position as you possibly can, right? That's all you should be trying to do, is find that guy, because it doesn't matter how good your roster is. If Kenny Pickett is your starting quarterback, if Mason Rudolph is your starting quarterback, you got no shot. You got no shot. You got no chance. So what difference does it make if you got this tremendous roster? Like, I used to try to convince myself of this. So glad that I'm past this now as a fan of a team that got it right. I used to convince myself that I want to follow the Seattle Seahawks early 20-teens model of, building up the roster and then dropping the quarterback in the middle, right? Which is what they did with Russell Wilson effectively. They built the Legion of Boom. They had Marshawn Lynch. They had everything that they needed ready, and, all they needed was a quarterback to drop in the middle of that powder keg and have it explode. And they got lucky. They hit the inside straight on Russell Wilson as a 3rd-round pick, and they didn't look back. And the Seahawks won a Super Bowl, in his 2nd year, went back to the Super Bowl. The very next year after that, should have been 2-time defending Super Bowl champions. They blew it, but they went to the Super Bowl 2 years in a row, all while Russell Wilson was still on a rookie deal. And that became the way teams looked at the, way you build your roster. Like, hey, even if you can't find the guy, just keep building the roster up. And eventually that guy will just show up and he'll just turn up and you'll be ready. Bullshit. Right? You find that guy at all costs first. And it's not ideal to throw a young quarterback into a messy situation. Like, the biggest thing you can do is protect him, right? You may not have all the weapons. The defense may not be any good. But as long as he's not getting his brains bashed in, he has a chance to succeed. As long as there's not absolute dysfunction and turmoil around him, meaning you draft him, but yet he's got a lame duck coach or a GM, etc. You're going to fire those guys after 1 year. New guys are coming in. Now he's got a different play caller. And, like, as long as you're not giving him that treatment, right, and the offensive line isn't a sieve, he's going to have a shot. right? He's going to have a chance. Daniel Jeremiah has been adamant that you don't have to draft a quarterback at the top of the draft, or just, in general, if you're not comfortable with the options that are available, which I don't suggest you force it if the talent isn't there. Again, my thing is there's talent at the top of this draft at the quarterback position. Is it as good as it was last year? Absolutely not. We're fully aware of that. These guys wouldn't be anywhere near the top of last year's draft class. Okay. If we were keeping score at home, neither one of these guys, to me, and this is my opinion, and you can feel totally different about this, neither one of these guys are better than Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, or Drake May coming out of last year's draft. All three of those guys would have still gone in the order that they probably went last year. Obviously, hindsight is 2020. Jaden Daniels probably goes number 1 overall if you were redrafting last year's draft, but I don't think the Bears fans feel like they got it wrong necessarily. I mean, it's 1 year, and we'll see what Caleb Williams, and they got him as coach now, and Ben Johnson. They've got a ton of weapons out there. They've fortified the offensive line. I still think Caleb Williams is going to be really good. So, and same thing with Drake May. And we already have seen what Jaden Daniels can be in this league, and what he ultimately has a chance to be is one of the best in the league. And so these guys aren't that. But are they where Michael Penix and, Bo Nix, and, even Nix had a really strong first year, but are they in that conversation? You damn right they are. Absolutely they are, right? They're right in that mix with the J.J. McCarthy's, the Bo Nixes, and the Michael Penix Juniors of the world. But again, 6 quarterbacks went in the first round last year. They would have been among those 6 last year. Or they would have made it 8 if they were in that draft class, right? They're talented enough. So I don't subscribe to the, you can just pass on quarterback, as Daniel Jeremiah suggests, and you'll suck, but you'll be back in a position to draft a quarterback either the next year or sometime soon thereafter, right? And his examples were, the Bills passed on quarterback when they got Josh Allen the following year. Like, they didn't take Mahomes. They didn't take Deshaun Watson in that 2017 draft, right? They didn't take Mitchell Trubisky. They didn't have the option to take Mitchell Trubisky, but they had the option to take both Mahomes and Watson, and they passed on both of them. And again, that wasn't necessarily the right thing to do, but his point was the next year they got Josh Allen. Cool, but that's not the goal, isn't to have to trade up, which is what they had to do to get Josh Allen the next year, right? Then I think he used us, the Commanders, as an example of, passing on the position the year prior and taking and then being in a position to get Jaden Daniels. Do you know what we had to do to get Jaden Daniels? We had to win 3 games the year prior. I think it was 3. It might have been 4. We had to be awful. I think we were 4-13. We had to be awful, right? Like one of the worst teams in football. And we had to pray not to beat teams like the Jets and the Rams late in that season to get to the number 2 overall pick. It's hard to lose that many games and to find yourself in that position to take the quarterback that you're looking for, right? I don't suggest you pass on an opportunity. I remember saying this to the Falcons. You want to know why the Falcons took Michael Penix? And I've talked about this. I was on record when they passed on the opportunity to take Justin Fields to draft Kyle Pitts, and I said that was a mistake. That was a massive mistake. And they overcorrected that by drafting Michael Penix, when they could have easily taken an edge rusher or a corner last year and said, we got Kirk Cousins. They said, no. We were in this position before with an aging veteran quarterback in Matt Ryan. And instead of us going out and taking Justin Fields and having the succession plan in place, we went and got Matt Ryan, another weapon, and the shit backfired in our face. We didn't have a quarterback. Then we had to go through this whole Taylor Heineke, Desmond Ridder, I think there was one more ass quarterback in that mix, and they had to suffer. And they said, we're not doing that again. We're not doing that again. So I don't subscribe to the whole, oh, don't worry about it. If you don't take a quarterback, you'll be ass and you'll be back here again and you'll be able to get your quarterback the next year or the year after that. No. If you're number one overall in the draft, as the Tennessee Titans are, take the damn quarterback. What are we talking about here? It's not like it's void of talent. Again, this isn't the 2022 draft class of quarterbacks where you should be passing on the entire position and going elsewhere. There's talent here. Take one of them, right? That one is Cam Ward. Let's talk about Cam Ward and his pro day today. He went out, he checked all the boxes, he did what he was supposed to do. To me, if you're drafting at the top of the draft, you're swinging for the fences. You're not looking to hit a double, right? And you're not looking to leg out a triple. You want to either hit a home run. Like, to me, this is how I feel about the draft. I want to either hit a home run or I want to strike out. The worst thing you can do is hit a double in the draft at quarterback. Unless you're the Philadelphia Eagles and you can build a super team around your quarterback. Then you can hit a double and be good with it. But if you're, and you know what? In saying that, there have been other teams that have hit doubles and built really good rosters around their quarterback, but your quarterback has to be wired a certain way. And when opportunities are presented to that quarterback, they got to take advantage. And that's the one thing I may talk about straight jacket Hurts, but when the opportunity presents itself, he usually does not miss. He usually plays the kind of football they need him to play in order for them to be successful. The same cannot be said for Dak Prescott. The same cannot be said for Tua Tagovailoa. That's what you don't want to do. You don't want to draft a double at quarterback and be stuck, because nobody wants to have nothing at quarterback, right? Nobody wants to have nothing at quarterback. So when you draft that double, you're stuck. The 49ers are stuck. They got a double at quarterback in Brock Purdy. What do they have to do? They got to pay him, because it beats the alternative of being the Cleveland Browns, the Tennessee Titans, or one of these other teams out here that doesn't have a quarterback at all. So guess what you're going to do? You're going to pay Brock Purdy. But Brock Purdy isn't a home run. He's not a triple. He's a double. Tua Tagovailoa is a double, and an injured one at that. But guess what? It beats the alternative of being the Jets and not having a quarterback. So the Dolphins have to pay him, or had to pay him. Nobody wants to be without a quarterback. So if you're the Tennessee Titans, Shedeur Sanders feels like a double in this year's draft class. He could even be a triple. He could leg it out, stretch it to a triple if he goes to the right situation, which I think Cleveland is the perfect situation for him in terms of his skill set, what he would be able to do, an offense that would suit his skill set. I think he could be really good with Kevin Stefanski. That said, only thing that I worry about, it's cold in Cleveland. You need arm talent. It's windy. He doesn't have the strongest arm in the world. That's the only thing I worry about with Shedeur Sanders. But I digress, right? Skill-wise, I mean, scheme-wise and fit, I think he actually is suited well for Kevin Stefanski's offense. But Cam Ward isn't a sure thing. He's not a lock. He's not a guarantee. Neither one of these quarterbacks feel that way. And again, there's no such thing as a guarantee in the NFL. There's no such thing as a sure thing at any position, including quarterback. But there are guys where you just feel like it's going to be really tough for this guy to not be really good. Like Andrew Luck, for instance, right? Was the guy, to me, he was the gold. He's been the gold standard. Like when I look at quarterbacks and I'm like, it's going to be hard for this guy to fail at the NFL level because he has everything. Luck had, he didn't have the strongest arm, but it was plenty strong enough. Athleticism, size, smarts, all the intangibles. He checked off every single box, did Andrew Luck. And Joe Burrow was the guy that has come closest to me to that. The only thing he didn't have was the same level of athleticism, right, coming out. Now, obviously, Jaden Daniels, I think, has topped all of them, obviously, with what he did in his rookie season. But I didn't have him ranked as high as those two guys coming out. Like I'm talking after the fact now. I'm not talking about going into the process. I didn't have Jaden Daniels as high as Andrew Luck or Joe Burrow, right? Cam Ward has everybody's looking for the next big thing at the quarterback position. You know, Texans, they swung big and hit a really, really long, deep fly with CJ Stroud out of the park and damn near into the parking lot, right? The Commanders crushed it last year. They hit the quarterback baseball as far as any team has ever hit the quarterback baseball in year one, right? They smoked it. I don't know if it's come down yet. Everyone's looking to have that type of an impact. Cam Ward is the closest thing you're going to get to having a guy that could potentially do that for you. Again, I don't trust Cam Ward. I'm not the biggest Cam Ward fan, okay? I love his talent. I don't always love his decision making. And again, even though he's not technically small, he's not Kyler Murray or Baker Mayfield back there. He's not the biggest guy either. Okay. So when it's all said and done, I think he has a chance to do some really special things, but I don't think it's going to be what we saw the last 2 years from CJ Stroud. And really, it's been the number 2 picks that have knocked it out of the park. I don't think he's going to be the guy that necessarily does it this year. If it happens, it could be the number 2 pick again. Because if the Titans stick and pick, they suck. They're. I find it hard to believe that somebody's going to go in there and turn that thing around in year one. They stink to the Tennessee Titans. Now, the Browns, on the other hand, at 2, I could easily see the Browns taking a quarterback, and that quarterback comes in, plays well, because we saw it last year, right? When Jameis Winston wasn't throwing the ball to the wrong color jersey, which is something he struggles with, they looked competent offensively. They won some big games against the Ravens and the Steelers last year when they weren't turning it over and throwing it to the wrong color jersey. They're fully capable. That defense is as good as it gets in the NFL when fully healthy and locked in, which they had a ton of injuries last year. But they're capable of going from worst, which is what they were in the AFC North last year, to second. I can't see them being first. Some catastrophes would have to take place around that division for them to go all the way from worst to first. This isn't the AFC, South, where you could go from worst to first because the division isn't very good. But they could be right in that mix for a playoff berth and, potentially doing some damage. They were just in the playoffs in 2022, right? Or 2023, as a matter of fact. Excuse me. They were just in the playoffs with 4 different starting quarterbacks. PJ Walker and Dorian Thompson, Dorian Thompson Robinson, right? DTR, shit. Deshaun Watson and Joe Flacco, 4 starting quarterbacks in 2023, and they made the playoffs. I think they won 11 games, if I'm not mistaken, that year. So I could see that happening. It's not happening for the Titans. But Cam Ward gives you the best option of the 2 quarterbacks to potentially hit it out of the park. The upside, the athleticism, the arm talent, the playmaking, off schedule, it's all there. He's the guy that can get you excited with some of the throws he can make. So I think the number 1 overall pick discussion, that's done. It was never really a debate for me, but that's done. It's not going to be Abdul Carter. I don't give a shit what we start hearing as we get closer to it. They do this every year, right? I was talking to my buddy. He's a Raiders fan, and he was like, "Man, I don't know. Maybe Shador could fall." I said, "Stop, man. Don't do that shit. I had to kill him, burst his bubble. You know, I'm not a dream killer, but I had to kill his dream. Like, we're not doing this. Okay. I've been doing this for long enough. You've been watching this for long enough. You know better. Like, don't allow yourself, because you want it to happen. Don't allow yourself to fall into the trap. All right. We talk about this all the time. Every draft hallway got some crack in it. Don't get trapped in it. Right? Come on now. You know good and well, Shedeur Sanders and or Cam Ward aren't falling to 6. Stop. And this isn't the draft. This is not the year to trade up to go get a quarterback. This is not the year to do that. Just sit tight and take whatever's there, right? This is not the year to go trading up. If you're the Giants, you wanted chaos above you. Just give me one of these dudes. I don't really give a shit which one. Of course, they would have a preference, but just let one of them fall to me. I don't give a shit which one. I don't think that's going to happen. Now, the Browns could do some crazy shit. They already traded for Kenny Pickett, and they could convince themselves that, oh, no, we're good. Let's go get the edge rusher to pair with Myles Garrett, and let's just turn this defense into a beast, and we'll go from there, right? That could be their thought process. I wouldn't do that if I were you. Like, Deshaun Watson's done. He's cooked. Stick a fork in him. You made the worst trade in NFL history. Deal with it. Live with it, right? Admit it and move forward. This is your opportunity to move. Look, your roster suggests that you should not be where you're at right now. You should not be drafting second. Not with Denzel Ward, one of the best corners in football. Not with Myles Garrett, one of the best edge rushers. When Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah was healthy, not with one of the best linebackers in football. You're not supposed to be drafting second, bruh. So don't take this for granted. Pass on an opportunity to get a quarterback and then find yourself winning, because we're going to talk about these quarterback dominoes a little bit later on in the show. You're getting yourself a veteran quarterback here, more likely than not. And I wouldn't convince myself that that's the move moving forward. Like, that's not the move. Okay. Get the young guy. Get the young guy. Like, Kenny Pickett doesn't factor into your decision making at all. I understand that. And if you get Russell Wilson, he shouldn't deter you from taking a quarterback either. You just have a brand new quarterback room, which the one last year was as bad as it could get, which is what landed you with the number 2 overall pick. Every single one of those dudes stunk it up, with the exception of Jameis, and you know what his kryptonite is. So if I were the Browns, this is my opportunity, because Deshaun Watson probably is not going to play football in 2025. By the time he's healthy enough to go, it's a wrap. You don't even need to see him. If I were the Browns, I'm just going to find a way to ride it out, try to make it as painless as possible. And in the first sight of an exit ramp, we're getting off the Deshaun Watson ride. We're getting off, right? And that might mean we've seen teams these last 3 years just say to hell with it and just eat all the dead money that they have to move on from a guy that they're not interested in, having him be on the roster. And these are healthy guys, like Russell Wilson, for instance. Like, this is a healthy quarterback that they were like, nah, you can get the hell out of here. Go ahead and step. You got a guy that can't stay healthy to save his life, and he sucks. And he's sucking the life out of your organization. So this is your chance to start over if you're the Browns. Take it. So the Giants may be the odd men out here. They may be the odd men out, but Cam Ward's going number 1. And if you're the Giants and you're that desperate, you might have to trade up to get him. I wouldn't do it if I were you. But again, beggars can't be choosers at this point. So we'll see what happens. Because if I'm the Browns, and I've felt this way the entire time, if I'm the Browns and the Titans, I'm drafting 1 and 2. Neither one of them have a quarterback. What are we even talking about right now? What are we even having a discussion? Now, if you don't love Shedeur Sanders and all that comes with it, because I get it. And for me, I'm not one of these Shador Sanders is a bad kid. He's this, but he does come with baggage. His father is Deion Sanders. You know, he has lived somewhat of a different life. His brain is wired differently. But this is what the vetting process is for. This is what these interviews and these are what these conversations that you're having are all about. But make no mistake about it, you draft Shador Sanders, you're drafting Deion Sanders too. And you have to know that. Are you uncomfortable with that? If so, probably not the guy for you. But talent-wise, Shador Sanders can play the quarterback position. And he's more of a traditional pocket passer, which is what I think fits Kevin Stefanski's offense. So a lot more so than a guy that is going to be off schedule trying to do a whole bunch of Houdini bullshit. So I think it's a good fit for Cleveland's offense. But we'll see what they decide to do. They could decide to take an edge rusher and take a dual Carter and pair him with Myles Garrett. I could see them doing that. They don't need Travis Hunter. So that doesn't make sense for them unless they're going to play him at wide receiver. Because they got Denzel Ward and they still have your boy from Northwestern as well, opposite of him, Newsome Jr. So they don't really need corner per se. So we'll see what happens. But Cam Ward's the #1 overall pick. You can go ahead and take that to the bank. Now, whether he's a Tennessee Titan or a Brown or a Giant, that I can't answer right now. Feels like he's going to be a Tennessee Titan. Don't think anybody's trading. But Cam Ward is your #1 pick overall in the 2025 NFL draft. And he pretty much solidified that by going out and having a really good showing at his pro day. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the next topic of the show. Let's get to our next segment, rather. Social media maneuvers. I'm a midday marauder, or in this case, midnight marauder. Y'all know what it is. If you're out there, you want your comment read. For those of you who are veterans, y'all know how this goes. But not everybody's a vet. So if you're out there, you want your comment read, use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air. If it is pertinent and time permits, we'll try and get to as many of them as possible. I can't guarantee you that that's going to take place. The only way I can guarantee that your comment is read and reacted to live on the air is if you super chat. Use the super chat function, and your comment will not only be read, but it will be reacted to live on the air, and you jump straight to the front of the line. So, with that said, I'm going to kick off social media maneuvers by talking about a little bit of March Madness. So, March Madness wasn't really all that mad this year. It was really more of a snooze fest. Up until Maryland hit the game winner against Colorado State. We had no buzzer beaters. We didn't even have any shots that either won or tied the game, sent it to overtime, or even tied the game with less than 5 seconds left. No fireworks in either day, Monday or Thursday, Friday, then nothing Saturday. We had a lot more close games Saturday, but still nothing with the flair for the dramatic. And it wasn't until Sunday evening, we got our lone buzzer beater on the men's side of the bracket. For the most part, it was chalk, and the men's top seeds took care of business. All 4 1 seeds are still left. 3 of the 4 2 seeds remain. The only one that lost, if I'm not mistaken, is St. John's, who lost to Arkansas and John Calipari, which was pretty neat because Cal was with Arkansas for the first year, and they had their struggles throughout the course of the year, but they kind of figured it out towards the end of the SEC, which was just brutal this year. They had, I think, a record amount of teams in the tournament. I think they had like 12 teams in the tournament or some craziness like that. But him being there, them being a 10 seed, and them doing what they've done, it just continues to show the dominance of the SEC this year. Florida is a 1 seed. They've advanced to the Sweet 16, obviously. Same could be said for Auburn. They're in the Sweet 16. And Arkansas took down not only Kansas and Bill Self, which was, one of those championship coaches with experience, but then Cal took down Rick Pitino, who was in year 2, if I'm not mistaken, of St. John's. So they were the 2 seed. St. John hadn't been relevant. St. John's hadn't been relevant in shit, man. I think the last time they were relevant, Ron Artest was there. But the last time I think anybody thought they were going to win anything was when they had Felipe Lopez. I know I'm showing my age a little bit, and we're going back a little ways, but they haven't been relevant in a long time, pretty much, is what I'm saying. So to see them as a 2 seed was a bit jarring, but it didn't last very long. They couldn't shoot, they couldn't make shots, and Arkansas got them. So they're the only 2 seed that has not advanced. I think I'm trying to think about 4 seeds. Most of the 4 seeds are still alive, I believe. Maryland won, as we just talked about. Trying to think. Most of the 3 seeds are left too. I think we're without maybe 1 or 2 of those. But Arizona is one of the 4 seeds. They're playing Duke. Maryland is one of the 4 seeds. They're going to be playing Florida. I don't remember who Auburn is playing. And then who's the other 1 seed that I'm forgetting? I think it's Houston. That's the other 1 seed. I don't know. I don't remember who they're playing. But in any event, yeah, there weren't a lot of close games. There was one last night that was pretty entertaining between Oregon and Arizona. Caleb Love had himself a night. But by and large, the men's tournament hasn't produced any real fireworks or dramatics. And the Maryland game did produce some, obviously. And just so we're clear, that was in fact a travel. I don't give a damn what anybody says. If we're discussing whether or not a play was a travel, then it's a travel, right? We shouldn't be having this in-depth discussion. It's 2 steps to be a legal play. He took 3 steps. If we start talking about when did the gather actually start, come on, man, what are we doing here? Now, should they have called it? No. No, let it go, right? Dudes travel all the time. They don't call it. So why start calling it now, right? Yes, that was a travel. Are you insane? Yes, that was a travel. but I'm glad they didn't call it. So he hits the game winner off the bank, and they struggled all game against Colorado State, but they hung in, they hung tough, and they made the shot when it mattered the most. And so they punched their ticket to the Sweet 16. And I think they are one of about, I'd say maybe 3 programs right now that have both the men and the women advancing to the Sweet 16. Because UConn's men's are out for the first time. Remember, they were the 2-time defending champions. They got eliminated by Florida, and that was a close game. One of the few close games that we got. Duke has their men's and women. Maryland has their men's and women in, and I'm trying to think. Oregon got eliminated. No, Duke beat Oregon on the women's side, and then Arizona just beat Oregon on the men's side. So both of them have been eliminated. I think Kentucky would have had it, but they got eliminated on the women's side by K-State. That was probably the best game I watched all weekend. Was K-State and Kentucky women double overtime. That was a fun one. So let's talk about the women's side of the bracket for a second. Let's talk about the women's side for a second. So I was locked in to the women's side of the tournament, and I was locked in for the first time in a long time. I see Maryland came back from a 17-point deficit to win in double overtime over Alabama. So the women made it. I missed that one. That sounds like a great game to watch. I'm a little salty with. I'm not even gonna front. I'm a little salty with Maryland's women because they knocked out Norfolk State, and I was pulling hard for the home team. Both the men and women made it on the for the tournament, but the men didn't stand a chance. They were a 16 seed, and they were going up against Florida. Their coach said some incredibly stupid shit, like, I see the line. Are they that much better than us? Yeah, they are that much better than you. All right. We play better when we're angry, and our guys are angry. I'm like, okay, well, you finna take this angry ass whooping. Shut up. It ain't about being a, HBCU or playing in the MEAC. Shut up, bro. You're ass and you're gonna get destroyed. But they did cover. If you keep score at home, the line was 27. They lost by 26. So maybe they weren't that bad. Maybe he was right. But the women were 30-4 and legit. And I thought they could beat Maryland. And they had their chance. They had their chances. They just couldn't make enough shots. They had their chance. They were leading at halftime. But one of the things that bothered me, and you can tell I haven't been a huge women's college basketball participant in my lifetime. I haven't been this invested in women's college basketball since Tisha Pinachero was at Old Dominion. Again, I'm showing my age. It's the last time I gave a damn about women's college basketball. Wayne Larry was the coach of ODU then, the winningest coach in Old Dominion program history. I did not realize that like the top 4 seeds get home games in the NCAA tournament. When did they start doing that on the women's side? That shit to me is preposterous. Here's why I have an issue with this. Let me get on my soapbox for a little bit. To me, there is no sport where the discrepancy between the have and have nots exists more so than women's college basketball. If I'm a 16 seed in the women's side of the bracket, that probably means my tallest player is like 6 feet, maybe 5'11". And the other team, which is a 1 seed, probably gonna have like 2 or 3 girls that are like 6'2", 6'3", 6'4". I can't do anything with that. Right? I'm screwed. In women's college basketball, the talent level is so wide. Like they're beating their opponents by like 70. Did you see what South Carolina did to the 16 seed in the first round? I think, or South Carolina a 2 seed. I think they're a 2 seed. You see what they did to the 15 seed? I think they beat them by like 70. You don't see men's games getting that out of hand. It happens all the time on the women's side when you get 2 teams playing against each other that aren't evenly matched. You get an ass whooping. And it's usually of the most graphic and disgusting variety, right? 66-point loss. I don't need you to make it that much harder for me to beat them by giving them home court advantage. Thanks, but no thanks. I don't need South Carolina being at home. I don't need UConn being at home. I was watching the beginning of the UConn game, just for context. I don't remember who they were playing. It doesn't matter, right? It was some poor 16 seed. I turned the game on. It was 27-5. Remember, women's college basketball has 4 quarters, all right? 4 10-minute quarters. They were like 4 minutes into the first quarter. It was 27-5. I had to turn it off because it was 37-5 and they weren't out of the first quarter yet. 37-5. Why does UConn need to be at home against UC Santa Barbara? I don't know who they were playing. Just throwing out a random ass school. They don't need to be home against UC Santa Barbara. On a neutral court, they're 40-point favorites. They don't need to be at home. Now they're 60-point favorites. I don't understand the logic behind that. Yes, you earn the right to be at home, just like in the men's, side of the bracket. You earn the right to be closer to home. The higher your seed, the closer we're going to try to put you to where your home fans can get to you, right? Duke 1 seed, they were playing in Raleigh, like right up the street. That's how it should be, right? I don't know if you need to be playing. Like, I was so pissed off watching Norfolk State have to play Maryland, and they were at home at the Xfinity Center. I'm like, what the hell is this shit? I can't get jiggy with this shit. What am I supposed to do with this? My girls fought all year long. I was so happy they were a 13 seed and they didn't give them some bullshit 15 or 16 seed. They actually respected them. They played a tough schedule. They won a lot of good games against quality opponents. They won every game in their conference, and a lot of them were ass whoopings, right? 30, 40-point victories. So they respected them, gave them a 13 seed, and I said they could beat Maryland. And they had a shot. But damn it, they didn't make it easy on them. They didn't give them to me, it's tough to go on the road and win, especially when the other team has more talent than you do. So anyway, long story short, I watched a lot of women's college basketball over the weekend, and there were some good games. There were some good games. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the comment section. Sweet 16 is set. Let me run down the list of the teams left. So Thursday, you get 4 games on Thursday, 4 games on Friday. Then you get 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. So Sweet 16 looks like this. 4-seeded Arizona taking on 1-seed Duke. 6-seed BYU taking on 2-seed Alabama. 4-seed Maryland taking on 1-seeded Florida. And 10th-seeded Arkansas taking on 3rd-seeded Texas Tech. So we lost a 3-seed when BYU beat. Who did BYU beat? They beat They beat Wisconsin by 2. That was a good game. So they are in the Sweet 16. I wonder when's the last time BYU went to the Sweet 16? That's a good question. So that's Thursday. And then Friday, you got Michigan State, the 2-seed, taking on number 6-seeded Ole Miss, another SEC team. We're about to count up how many SEC teams we got. 3rd-seeded Kentucky Wildcats taking on the 2-seeded Tennessee Volunteers. 5th-seeded Michigan Wolverines taking on the 1-seeded Auburn Tigers. And the 1-seeded Houston Cougars taking on the 4th-seeded Purdue Boilermakers. So Auburn is SEC. That's 1. Tennessee and Kentucky are both SEC teams, 2 and 3. Ole Miss is a SEC team. That's 4. Arkansas is an SEC team. 5. Florida 6. Bama 7. 7 of the 16 teams in the Sweet 16 are SEC teams. That is pretty damn impressive. Just talks about the depth and the strength of that conference this year. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the comment section, see what you guys are talking about. Red Wing 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for kicking us off tonight. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Red Wings 01 writes, Ewers and Milroe are the Levis and Richardson of the draft to me. Super toolsy, raw, back into first, early second round guys. Milroe reminds me of early career Lamar, who went 32nd. Ewers is like Favre, who, like Levis, went 33rd. All right, so I disagree with Milroe being Lamar. Lamar was a Heisman Trophy winner. Lamar was like that coming out of college. I think what messed Lamar up was, and I'm not telling you that Lamar was the passer that he is now. Obviously, he wasn't. But Lamar was like that coming out of college. Milroe is not like that. And I think what messed up Lamar's draft stock was you had the old guard, people like the guy that he was the architect of those Bills teams. He was also the GM of the Indianapolis Colts when Peyton was there. He was working at ESPN at the time, and he suggested Lamar work out as a running back. And he was talking that dumb shit. And I think some people, kind of fell into that trap because we were still in an age in the NFL at that time where the dual threat quarterback wasn't in. They were the minority, not the majority. They were unique still at that time. You still had, Rodgers, and not that Rodgers couldn't move, but you still had Breeze and Manning and all of those guys. Roethlisberger was still in the league. Like, you still had all of the old guard the true pocket passers still in the league at that time. So it wasn't in vogue like it is now. Now you're looking for the dual threat passer. You're looking for the guy that has, as you said, the tools, right? That's super toolsy. But Milroe to me is just so far behind from a accuracy standpoint, a footwork standpoint, mechanics standpoint. He's inconsistent as a thrower of the football. He doesn't know when to put touch on it. Everything feels like a 99-mile-an-hour fastball. His deep balls are flat. He doesn't put enough trajectory or air on the ball. He doesn't process fast enough, which then he turns into a runner. And we all saw how fast he ran at his pro day. So to me, and this doesn't mean anything, but honestly, if you want people to take you seriously as a quarterback, you don't run the 40. We know how fast. We knew he was fast. He didn't need to do that. That only entices a team even more so to want to flip you to a running back or a wide receiver or some other position that you don't want to play. He wants to play quarterback. Don't run the 40 then. Make them take you serious as a quarterback. You just made teams say, hey, man, we can draft him as a quarterback, but if his ass don't work out, we turn him into a running back or a receiver. Like, you just made it easy for somebody to want to do that. I agree with you in terms of I think he's more along the lines of Levis. Maybe even Richardson to a lesser degree. Like Richardson, I think he got over on people because I was never an Anthony Richardson guy, never, because I have a problem with dudes who can't complete passes at a collegiate level. There's so many built-in easy completions at the line of scrimmage in the collegiate game that if you can't complete more than 60% of your passes in college, we got problems, man. There's so many screens and hitches and quick hitters in the college game that if you can't complete, this man was in the 50s in his career and he didn't have enough starts for me either. So there was a lot fundamentally wrong with Anthony Richardson, but I think he's closer to Richardson and Levis. Ewers doesn't fit in that category for me because Ewers to me is more polished. He just does, to me, he's not super toolsy. Ewers isn't. He's a solid thrower of the football. He's not a great athlete. His arm isn't that strong. He, to me, and I'm trying to think of a quarterback that he could remind me of that has had some sort of success at the NFL level, that has come out in the draft. I don't want to go too far back on you. You know who he could remind me of a little bit, and it's always hard when you try to compare someone to another person, but one is left-handed, one is right-handed. It's kind of hard to make the comparison, but he reminds me a lot of Tua. Like obviously they're not the same size, and it's a little bit in terms of how they throw. Got to be anticipation. Don't have the strongest arm. Had success in college. Ewers didn't win a national championship, but he played in the playoffs 2 years in a row. Made it to the semifinals 2 years in a row. But just fell short of making it to the championship game twice. Tua did win a championship, but he strikes me and play with a ton of talent around him. Same with Ewers, play with a ton of talent around him. I think he's very similar to Tua in that regard. I think you're spot on with Milroe and Anthony Richardson and Will Levis. Like those guys were athletic. Those guys had massive arms, had all the tools, right? Just lacked any type of consistency whatsoever. And you've seen it with Levis, and we've definitely seen it with Anthony Richardson. I just think that Milroe is even further behind those two guys. Even further behind those two, especially Richardson. Right, Levis, at least he was a second round pick, which Milroe will probably be. I think there's a chance he's a third round pick. Milroe, right? It wouldn't shock me if he went in the third round. He's probably going to go late second, if I had to guess. I don't see him being like the 33rd pick. Neither one of them, him or Ewers, neither one of them are going to be early second round picks. I don't think. I think the only early second round pick is the Ole Miss quarterback, Jackson Dart. He's the only one that I could see late first, right? Somebody trades back in the 32nd pick with Philadelphia or somebody of that ilk. Or, being the 33rd or the 34th or the 35th pick, one of those quarterback teams that didn't get a quarterback at the top of the first round could, get it at the top of the second. Raiders too, right? I don't see anybody saying, yo, I got to get Milroe or Quinn Ewers at 34, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, any of those picks. But we'll see. I definitely am buying Milroe as the Levis and Richardson type, prospect, with all the tools in the world. Ewers isn't super toolsy to me. He's not. But we'll see where he ends up. Bill Polian, thank you guys. Bill Polian was the guy that kind of tanked. I felt like he kind of changed the perception of Lamar Jackson in that process. And I felt like, I don't want to say he tanked his stock, but he definitely didn't help it. That's for certain. And that was the beginning of the end of Bill Polian's career in, broadcasting and being an analyst. That was a big one. He was getting older anyway, but that one was pretty rough on him. That was the beginning of the end for him. Sean Roberts, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Sean writes, we need running back Travion Henderson at all costs if he's available in the second. I would be highly disappointed if he's on the board and we don't pick him in the second. He's actually my second back. Watch his highlights. I'll let you in on a secret, Sean. He's pretty high on my running backs list as well. But, excuse me, with that being said, I don't think he's going to be there for our pick at 61 overall. If we were picking 37th, or like we were last year, I think we had the 36th pick last year. Yeah, he'd definitely be on the radar. I don't think he's going to be there at 61. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you right now, there's no chance in hell he's there at 61. It's a long shot to me, but there's a chance that he goes in the first round before we even get on the clock for the first time in this draft. Highly unlikely if you ask me, but I wouldn't put it past some of these teams. But with most teams signing veteran running backs to their rosters, like Minnesota bringing back Aaron Jones, to me, that doesn't scream, I have to draft a first-round running back. With the Chargers signing Najee Harris to a one-year deal, that doesn't scream, I got to draft a first-round running back. That doesn't preclude those teams from drafting a running back at some point in the draft, but it doesn't scream, I got to get me a first-round back. I got nothing, right? The Raiders signing Raheem Mostert gives them some flexibility, but it still feels like they're going to draft Genty at 6. You know what I mean? So we'll see. We'll see. I feel you on Travion Henderson. He definitely fits what we're looking for, what I think we need. I don't know what they're looking for. Are they looking for a B-Rob replacement or are they looking for a compliment? Because he's a compliment. He's not a replacement. That's how I feel. Red Wings 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, bruh, my Terps chose to follow the Commander's example as the heart attacks kids. Derek Queen got ice in his veins, though, on the floor to get mauled. Hey, Derek Queen been balling, man. He has been a man amongst boys in this tournament in both of the games. I forgot who Maryland played in the first round. I was watching that game, and neither team could put the ball. I think it was a purple team. I can't remember what their name. I want to say it was Robert Morris, but it wasn't. I think it started with a C. But neither one of the teams could put the ball in the basket at the beginning. That was their shot. Maryland got off to a slow start, but they couldn't score. They couldn't make any shots. And then eventually Maryland got their shit together. You know, Queen was killing in the Big Ten tournament. And then he's just continued his hot stretch of basketball, obviously making the game winner. I know Maryland. I know a lot of Maryland fans, and they're all excited right now. All excited. So I don't know if you get mauled by Florida. I don't know, man. You got a shot. You got a shot. We'll see. Florida's been really good this season, though. They've been really good, but this is what the tournament's all about. You got a shot. This is all you can ask for is a chance. You got your chance. Let's see what you do with it. Definitely giving y'all heart attacks, though. That one was a crazy one. Shadow Striker 789. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Shadow Striker 789 writes, not a travel. I had Maryland money line heavy, LOL. Of course it wasn't a travel then. But yeah, it was a travel. Of course it was. It was just funny hearing people try to justify how it, like, it's okay. It was a travel. They didn't call it. I don't care that they didn't call it. They never call travel, right? It seems like they call it more in the college game than they do in the pro game. But in that spot, just let him play, man. Like, okay, so he took 3 steps. Still was a tough shot that he made, and I love it. The tournament, we needed one of those for the tournament. We had nothing. Says, but first half, Colorado State tall center got away with a nasty MMA reverse spinning elbow onto one of our bigs. You're not wrong. Which should have been ejected, wasn't even called. You're not wrong. That was a pretty vicious elbow. But it like Maryland was struggling to shoot in that first half, really from most of the game. You know, they were struggling to put the ball in the basket, but they stayed connected. That was the most important thing. They never let it get out of control because there were points where it felt like Colorado State could run away. But every time they tried to get to that point of no return, Maryland reeled them back in and just stayed connected, gave themselves a chance. And again, that's all you're looking for at the end of the game is a shot. And the thing that you have is you got a guy like my guy Red Wing 01 just made the connection between the Commanders and the Terrapins. And I'll tell you, you got a guy at the end of the game that you feel like if we could just get it to within a score, we got a closer. We got a guy that can go win us the game. And so he proved it in the game in the field of 32 with the game winner. And similar to the Commanders, where we felt like just give Jaden Daniels the ball at the end with a chance, and he'll take care of the rest. You just got to keep it close against Florida. You'll have a shot. You'll have a shot. Just Andre, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Just Andre writes, don't care if it was a travel. It was the worst ref game in the tournament. That no travel call evened it out. I'm not telling you you're wrong. It was not a well officiated game. I didn't have a dog in the fight, so I could care less how it went. But if my team were playing in that game, I would have been pissed. So I totally get where you are coming from. And with the way that game was officiated, it was absolutely right, only right that travel was not called. So again, I think we're on the same page. I think we're on the same page. Yes, Grand Canyon. I knew one of the names had a C in it. They couldn't make a shot to save their life at the beginning of that game, and it allowed Maryland to settle in, get comfortable, and then eventually they started making shots and getting to the line, and then that thing got out of hand rather quickly. Red Wings 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Red Wings writes, okay, I hear what you're saying about Ewers. He's not that toolsy. What about Alex Smith or Sam Bradford? Yes, Bradford would be the perfect comp. I didn't want to go that far back because, it's a lot of people that are like, who? Sam who? Like, but yes, that is exactly who Quinn Ewers is. Now, Bradford had a stronger arm than Ewers, right? That's why Bradford was the number 1 overall pick in the draft that year. But their skill set is very similar. But again, Bradford had a much stronger arm. Maybe Matt Ryan, if he fully develops. I could see that too. Yeah, absolutely. I think Matt Ryan was when he came out. I don't remember what pick in the draft Matt Ryan was. He was not number 1 overall. Maybe he was like 4th or something. Was Matt Ryan when he came out of BC. But Matt Ryan was so poised and calm, and he was such a badass competitor coming out of BC. Matt Ryan, like a lot of people forget, Matt Ryan was a badass when he came out. Quinn Ewers ain't a badass. Like, I don't love his pocket presence. He seems very fragile. How many times did he get hurt this year and Arch Manning had to come in the game? Like, he's a solid athlete, is Quinn Ewers. He can move a little bit. Not a lot. But he's not a statue back there. But he seems real flimsy to me. Like, he's not sturdy at all. Matt Ryan was sturdy, That's why I said Bradford feels like the comp, because Bradford was always hurt. Always. Right? Didn't have great pocket presence, was really flimsy. Matt Ryan was a rock back there, man. So, like you said, though, if he fully develops, he could become that. He doesn't strike me as a guy that has, like, you either got it or you don't. Like, you don't develop it. You either have it or you don't. Quinn Ewers, to me, doesn't have it. So that's why I think he would be more so Sam Bradford than a Matt Ryan. But I get what you're saying, without question. If he fully develops, he could turn into something like that. Alex Smith was a tremendous athlete. So I don't think he would be Alex Smith ever. Because even if Alex never liked what he saw, he could take off and run, use his legs. Quinn Ewers isn't doing that. So Sam Bradford would be the comp there, which is actually a really good one. I could see Joe Milton. If you're talking about, I just saw your comment about Jalen Milroe. I could see, yeah, Joe Milton. The skill sets are very similar. Now, Milton was nowhere near the athlete that Milroe is. Milton can run, but it wasn't run no 4.36 or whatever. Even if that thing was really a 4.4 flat, that Joe Milton won't run in that neither, right? You know what I'm saying? And Milroe probably is, my guess is 6'3", right? 6'2" and some change, 6'3". He looks like a sturdy 6'3". Matter of fact, I should have this written down in my notes, what he measured in at the combine. I always like to look at the combine measurements because that's going to be accurate. See what he was. My guess is he had to be 6'3". Seemed like he was 6'3". All right. He was measured in at 6'2", 217. So thought he would be a little bit taller than that. Because Cam Ward is 6'2" as well. And he seemed like he was taller than Cam Ward. But Milton is massive. Milton's like 6'5", 240. So it's just they two different animals. But yeah, from a like an arm talent perspective, yeah, both of them can sling it. Let's see. Just Andre. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB for 38 months. Salute to you, who writes, who you think winning it all? You already know. You already know. I was telling my boy, we both Duke fans. I said, I'm going to be disappointed. And normally I don't put that kind of pressure on my team because it's like college basketball is a little bit weird. It's different. There aren't many sports where you go, hey, just make it to the Final Four and it's a successful season. You don't say that in many sports. Hey, just make it to the Final Four and you got to feel good because it's so hard to get there. Normally, that's what I would say. And I think I started out there. But I in the back of my mind, I told him before the tournament even started, I said, I'm going to be disappointed if we don't win it all. Because we're that good this year. Now, we got to stay healthy. Obviously, Cooper Flag getting the ankle in the ACC tournament was scary. And then even in the win over Baylor, Tyrese Proctor went down at one point. I think he's fine, but just anything like that gets you a little nervous if you're a Duke fan because we're so deep, but at the same time, there's certain dudes you just need to be healthy. Proctor is one of them because when he's knocking the three down, he was unconscious this weekend, right? If he's doing that, you can't beat us. It's as simple as that. You can't beat us if Tyrese Proctor is going to go 7 of 8 from deep. And in the first game, I think he knocked down like 5 threes. In the first game, I think he was like 5 of 7 or 5 of 8. If he's doing that, you got no shot. You got no shot to beat us. Because you know what Cooper Flag's going to do. And we really didn't get anything from Khan over the weekend, really. Khan was like, he didn't have to be he didn't have to show up. We didn't need him because Tyrese was killing. And, our bigs, we can go to the bench with Goomba, but, I mean, Malik, like, we're just deep, man. Like, and it was good to see Caleb Foster playing well because he started at the beginning of the season and he got benched and he's really come to life late, and he's playing really well and he's playing with confidence. I love Sion, like the Gillis from the transfer from Purdue. Like we just got so much stuff. Like it's the perfect blend of freshmen. We led the nation in freshman scoring. And then veterans, guys that have been there, done that. Sion came from Tulane, and Gillis was in the national championship game last year as a member of Purdue. So Tyrese has been in the tournament, a couple times. So he's, well aware of what it takes. It's just a healthy mix of all the parts that you need. And you got to have guard play if you're going to win a national championship. It helps to have bigs. Those are great. We got 2 of them. But it's even better if you got a point guard. You got to have point guard play. And we got that too. So I think we're going to win it all, to be honest with you. Got to stay healthy, but we got shooting. We got leadership. We got point guard play. We got bigs. We got wings. We got guys that can come off the bench and score. We got everything we need. He just got to execute now and stay healthy. So I'm going with Duke. I'm a little biased, but this ain't me. This ain't biased Duke fan talking. This is like I really think we like that this year. Be disappointed if we don't get it done. So we'll see. That's gonna be it's gonna be Arizona's gonna be a nice test because we saw what Caleb Love did against Oregon. He can get hot and he starts playing like that. They could become tough to deal with. All right. All right. Okay. I don't see nothing up here for me. I do see a comment here at the bottom. Scott Hooker writes, "Hey Lou, got an off the wall question. Don't know how much college tape you've watched of Yankoff, but to me, kind of reminds me of a Taysom Hill. That could be another weapon. Any thoughts?" They love Colson Yankoff. Definitely, I watched a lot of him last year because he was undrafted, and we had so many undrafteds last year that it bared watching because you were like, "Yo, with the way they turning this roster over, a few of these undrafteds got a legit shot." And he ended up, along with Tyler Owens, being the two, if I'm not mistaken, that ultimately made it as undrafteds last year. I don't think any other ones made it, but some other guys, stuck around as practice squad guys. But he was a former quarterback, to your point, like Taysom Hill was. He's athletic. Now, it's levels to this, right? Yankoff's a solid athlete. Taysom Hill ran a 4.4. So again, it's it's levels to it, right? But yes, I can see why you could say he reminds you of a Taysom Hill because his skill set is very similar. Former quarterback, can catch the ball, can block, is physical, can run. He's not Taysom Hill level run, as a runner. But yeah, I could see that. But I don't know if they envision him being like, it takes a special type of staff to cultivate that type of talent and maximize it. Because Taysom Hill was he spun the block a couple times. It's not like the first team to get their hands on him was New Orleans with Sean Payton, and that's how he turned into the Taysom Hill that we've come to know and love. This man was in Green Bay, he was somewhere else, and then the Saints snagged him and said, "Hey, we think you could be something here." I don't know if they see him that way. I think they might see him in more of a traditional tight end role in Washington, but we'll see. We'll see. Um, let's get to the final segment of the show. And of course, that's garbage time. So I was looking at the NFL quarterback carousel, and obviously Aaron Rodgers feels like he holds the key to there being finality with the quarterbacks and where they'll all end up. But I think the Giants just made this whole process so much easier for us to understand. Rodgers had a meeting with the Steelers. Apparently, it went really well. It was pretty long. And after that meeting, the Giants said, okay, to hell with it. We see where this shit is going. Let's just go get Jameis and be done with it. So the Giants signed Jameis Winston. And to me, that puts all of this shit to rest. And it really makes this like pretty easy to see where the pieces are going to end up falling into place now. Because if the Giants still thought they had a shot at Aaron Rodgers, you don't sign Jameis Winston. Now, could you sign Aaron Rodgers still, along with Jameis Winston being on the roster and having Tommy DeVito or whoever else is. Sure, absolutely, you could do that, but they're not going to do that. They're not. It wasn't Jameis Winston and Aaron Rodgers. It was Jameis Winston or Aaron Rodgers. Well, they see the writing on the wall, and they said Aaron Rodgers is going to the Steelers, which is where I told you guys when we did the podcast like almost a month ago. I said the best spot for Aaron Rodgers is Pittsburgh, but I wasn't sure if the Steelers wanted him. They had some of the guys on the team bad mouthing him. One in particular, the safety, was talking cold hard cash about Aaron Rodgers. He needs to retire, go to the old folks' home, all of that shit. And after going down the Russell Wilson path and not having the type of success that they wanted, I didn't know if they were willing to jump back into that pool that quickly, but clearly they are. And it makes sense because I told you, I think Rodgers still has some football to give. I know so a lot of people are like, no, he washed Louie T. You tripping. Telling you, at the end of the season, Aaron Rodgers started to look a lot more like himself and not like the guy that was struggling and was checking it down every 2 seconds. He started to look like the Aaron Rodgers that just 2 years prior had won league MVP and won it 2 years in a row at that. So he look, there aren't many places left for him to go. It's either Cleveland or Pittsburgh. And he's not going to Cleveland. He's not going there. So it feels like he's going to Pittsburgh. If they get him, then it feels like Russell Wilson has to go to Cleveland. Where else is he going to go? Tennessee? Really? So kind of feels like the dominoes are falling into place. And Jameis Winston, who knew that the Giants and Jameis Winston would be the key to unlocking all of this? Aaron Rodgers is going to slow play this because he loves the attention. Rodgers loves this shit. He did remember last year him walking off the field with Randall Cobb one final time. Well, 2 years ago, excuse me, when people tried to make it seem like he was about to retire. Is this it for Rodgers? Walking off the field one final time with his best friend, Randall Cobb. I'm like, man, his ass ain't retiring. I need time to think. And he went to the retreat and all that bullshit. I was like, bro, why you slow playing this? We know you coming back. You love the attention, bro. You love this shit. And I can't say that a lot of times when guys get drafted and they play the bulk of their careers with one team, they never get that feeling of being courted, right? Being recruited. They never really truly get to go through free agency. So when they finally get that, they kind of soak it up. I remember Kirk Cousins talking about that. And I've seen it with veteran quarterbacks where they spin the block like, all right, I'm going to meet with this team. I'm going to meet with that team. They already know where the hell they want to go. But I'm going to meet with this team. I'm going to let them take me out to dinner, take me to a basketball game, suck all that shit up. Rodgers slow playing the hell out of this. He could have made a decision already. He going to the Steelers, though. He going to the Steelers. And I think that leaves Russell Wilson out in Cincinnati or Cleveland, excuse me. So I think we got some clarity now. With Winston going to the Giants, I think that sends Aaron Rodgers now to the Steelers because he was only contemplating those two teams. Well, he's not going to the Giants now. So feels like he's going to end up, it feels inevitable that he ends up with the Steelers, which I think is the best match anyway. And then that forces Russell Wilson to choose between Tennessee and Cleveland. I don't think he's really considering Tennessee. I wouldn't be if I were him. I'd go straight to Cleveland. If I'm the Browns, I'm still drafting a quarterback, even if I get Russell Wilson. But how could you watch Russell Wilson up close last year and say, yeah, no, we got to go get some of that. Yeah, we need Russ. That just doesn't feel like the move, right? That doesn't feel like I'm the Browns. I know the Browns are desperate, man. It was rough. If you watch Hard Knocks, I felt bad for Kevin Stefanski last year, man. It was rough watching him go through what he went through. But Russ ain't it. Mm-mm. He ain't it. But that's another conversation for another day because we had a whole entire Russell Wilson Hall of Fame conversation when he was at the end of his run in Denver and was like, yo, is he a Hall of Famer? And I was defending him tooth and nail, like, yeah, he a Hall of Famer. And man, I don't know. I know this last act is not going well. He needs one final act to like put an exclamation point on his Hall of Fame career. Right now, it doesn't feel like he's gonna get it. And it's leaving a lot to be desired here, man. Yikes. Um, I don't know. He did win a Super Bowl though. That helps, and he did go to a second. So that helps. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's getting a little dicey for Russell Wilson here. So I digress. Just Andre, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Just Andre writes, double up, let me double you up. Who writes, as a Maryland fan, that game had me fuming. Those refs almost single-handedly gave the game to Colorado State. Like our chances, but don't see us beating Duke or Auburn. You got to get out of the West first. And I'm trying to think of who is out west. I think Auburn is in the South. Houston probably is Midwest. Duke is East. Who am I forgetting as the number one seed? Florida. So Florida Florida is in the West. You're playing the number one seed out west. So who's the 2 seed out west? Trying to think, is the 2 seed still even available out west? One of them 2 seeds lost. I don't know where St. John's was. You would think they would be on the East Coast, but they may not have been the best of the 2 seeds. So let's see. Texas Tech. Yep, they were in the West. So Texas Tech, you play the winner of Texas Tech, Arkansas. So shit. You could I mean, if you could find a way past Florida, there's a path to the Final Four. There is a damn path to the Final Four. If you get past Florida. That's a big if. But I wouldn't rule it out. I would not rule it out at all. Anyway, I digress. I know a lot of Maryland fans, as I said already, and they they were pissed off first and foremost that they had to go all the way out west as a 4 seed. And I ain't gonna lie, that probably there's conspiracy theorists out there that believe it had something to do with Duke because they don't want Duke and Maryland being in the same bracket. I don't necessarily disagree with that. Look, I know Coach K ain't there no more, but the powers that be, the old guard are still there, and and Duke still has influence. And they did not forget how Maryland exited the ACC. And I do think like we play the Big Ten ACC challenge every year and won't never play Maryland. We play everybody but Maryland. So they ain't gonna never play each other. And when they get to the tournament, I don't think they're gonna put us in the same bracket. Like this was the perfect opportunity for them to make Maryland the 4 seed on the East Coast. Why not? And they didn't do it. Why make Arizona? Arizona could have been the 4 on the West, and Maryland could have been the 4 on the East. Why not? Right? Make it make sense. This was directly aimed at Maryland. We're gonna send you all the way out on the left coast. So there's that. Anyway, we'll see what happens. You got a chance. There's a path to the Final Four. There's definitely a path if you can get past Florida. That's a tall task, but it's not impossible. Anyway, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on the 400. Look at that. Count down, 491st installment of the Louie T Network podcast. Getting close, ever so close to that 500. We will be back on the podcast at some point this week, maybe Wednesday. Preview the Sweet 16 and talk about any other NFL topics that may arise. Some things that have caught my eye, like these dudes that can't run, boy, they be ducking the smoke. Y'all saw that Ted McMillan nor Cam Scatterbo worked out at their team's pro day. They like Arizona and Arizona State had like a joint pro day, and it was like 2 days long. And neither one of those dudes worked out. They ducked the smoke at the combine. Oh yeah, I'm gonna do everything at the pro day, and then they didn't do nothing at the pro day. Neither one of them did. All right now. All right. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Cam Scatterbo had the nerve to say, I know I'm fast. Oh, really? Prove it. Prove it. Anyway, I digress. Y'all get out of here. Enjoy the rest of your evening, morning, afternoon, whenever you getting this. I really appreciate y'all, especially on the East Coast, for kicking it with the kid. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys next time. And I'm working diligently, combing through all of this film so I can get up to speed where I need to be. But I will be releasing some videos here over the next couple days. And so it's going to be a ton of draft content coming at you very rapidly. So buckle up, because it's going to be a really, really fast ride as we on this crash course for the 2025 NFL draft. So with that said, I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. You guys, take care. God bless. Good night. Peace.